We're off to a great start. Good morning or afternoon, everyone. Today we are doing Photoshop basics. I'm going to be introducing, getting started, and photo enhancing. So right now, I would like for you to get out your creative journal if you have not done so already and put today's date. Today's date is September 17, 2018. And in bold letters, put Photoshop basics at the top. Now, to get started, I would like to introduce you to what is called Creative Suite. And this is a package of programs made by Adobe, and it's a big bundle of different software programs. So we have Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator. Those are the two that we are using in this specific class, and those are part of the software package. We have CS5. It's been a number of years since we've updated it. Working on that still. But I think it works just fine for what we're doing with the fundamentals. Now, part 2 of this class, we'll be touching on Adobe InDesign as well. And you may probably be guessing, okay, what's the difference between all of these? So on this slide, I have kind of explained a few different purposes for Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. Again, we will be using Photoshop and Illustrator for part 1. And Photoshop is exactly what it sounds like. It is specifically for photo enhancing or retouching, manipulation, color correction, special effects or manipulation, creation for web or motion graphics, and user interface and mobile designs. Now, something really important to know about with Photoshop is that you use pixels with photos versus Illustrator, and I'll explain to you what that is in a moment. It actually uses a mathematical formula and a system called vectors to create designs. So Illustrator specifically is for graphic design, logo, monogram, and vector illustrations, non-photographic website elements. Sometimes these overlap, Photoshop and Illustrator, but do know, and we'll spend some time talking about how vectors work when we get there, but anything that you create in Illustrator is infinitely scalable. I have something on the next slide that will explain that better. The last one is InDesign, and that's for printing purposes and layout purposes for pages, for documents or websites, things like that. But actually, I'll just explain it here. Infinitely scalable Illustrator, meaning the logos. You can create a logo in Illustrator and you can print it onto a bookmark. You also can take that exact file and you can print your image on a blimp. It is infinitely scalable. Nothing is pixelated. Nothing is grainy. Next to the stars, I'd like for you to write these down. File formats. These are the file formats that you will be using most commonly in this course. So photography projects for the first quarter, you will be using .psd files and .jpeg files. I'd like for you to write down what those are. So .psd files, those are Photoshop files. And what that means, it's really important. When you start your project, you're going to be sliding a file into Photoshop. Now, when it's in Photoshop, you are working on what's called a workspace. So you have different tools and you're doing different techniques. But what happens is that our class time runs out and you want to pick up where you left off. So you save your file as a .psd Photoshop format, and it is compatible to slide into Google Drive. You get to class the next day, you open up, you download your .psd file, you open it up in Photoshop, and your workspace is exactly how you left it the day before. So you can continue what you're doing, you have all your layers, everything in place. Now, JPEG files, this is, you change the format of your file to a JPEG only when you are finished. A JPEG is already, it's a file that is already compressed, meaning it's flattened out and it is ready to be uploaded to Google Classroom. If you save your file as a JPEG and then you expect to be to keep working on it later, you can't because it's flat and you have no ability to work on individual parts anymore. When we get into graphic design, it's kind of the same concept. .ai stands for Adobe Illustrator file, so you're able to go back in and continue working on your project. When you are all finished, you'll convert your file to a PNG for logos and graphics for the web. And I would put this like in a little think bubble or circle or a box just to not forget. I have this sweet image file formats, and the stars are the formats that I just explained: JPEG, PNG, PSD, AI. The top row of file formats, these are all for raster images, and that is the same thing as pixels or pixelated image. So pixel-based graphics, resolution dependent on photo web graphics. So your size of your file depends on how many pixels per inch you choose. So PPI, we'll talk about that. But that is all the little squares that we see on our screen. Like very, very little. If you want to know a GIF and a TIFF, RAW, I will talk about RAW file formats in a moment, but these are all raster. Down here, curve-based graphics, resolution independently, logo, icons, and type. The only vector format file, image file we will be using is the Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator file. Now down here, you'll see image color formats, and these are different color models, and I want to talk to you just so that you're aware. The screen in front of you, the graphics on the screen you are looking at, that is a different color model than the printer back here. So RGB is the system, and basically your computer in front of you uses red, green, blue to make all of the colors that you see right now. Versus a printer is CMYK. CMYK, what that stands for is cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. I don't know why it's K for black, but it is. And those are basically the cartridges that are inserted, the basic cartridges that are inserted into a printer. Now, what's kind of funny though is that you might create something on the screen that is RGB, but you have to convert it to the CMYK, and then your colors are ever so slightly off. Just know that there are two separate color models that exist, and that might be something that you want to consider if printing your designs or photos, okay? Are there any questions? No? Super exciting things. I need to move this to the right area, but here's just a visual. The RGB, red, green, blue. This is additive color model for computer displays. So all of the colors combined transmit white light and everything in between. That's how you visually see on your computer monitor, versus the printer, which is the other way. The more colors layered on create darker values. So it's opposite. Just something to be aware of. Now, there was a file format that you saw, RAW. And if you have a DSLR camera, you are able to photograph in this RAW file type. A RAW file is created with a DSLR camera. Inside of the camera, it is created, and it's just a change of the setting. So automatically, we have JPEG files created from our camera. When the information hits our sensor, it's processed into a JPEG file. But if let's say you're photographing a very important event and you want to make sure you capture every single pixel from that moment, you can I'll kind of show you here. You can have the information from the sensor, all of the information not be compressed and go to your memory card. So this is what it would look like versus a compressed file. Some of the quality of the sharpness or the value scale is enhanced ever so slightly because that file is not shrunken down to be more compatible with all the common software we use. So if you have the appropriate software to work with raw photos, then that is something to consider. These formats, though, are extremely large. So you don't want to be on raw mode the whole time, because you will, instead of being able to take like 2,000 pictures, you will only be able to take 400. So, because there's so much information there. And here's just another visual. So JPEG files in your camera, information goes to your sensor, processed, compressed down to your memory card. Am I going too fast? A little bit? Okay, I'm sorry, I get so pumped about this. This is kind of the information I think would be best for you to have about raw photos. And if I have any diagrams or illustrations in my presentations, feel free to sketch them out, any visuals that make more sense to you than words. That's cool. Next, I want to talk about destructive and non-destructive photo editing. Destructive photo editing. This is not you physically hammering your computer, but yeah, we don't want to do that. We do not want to destroy the data of the original photo file. So that is what it's called. Sometimes it's referred to as like just destructive photo. Sorry, I was mixing up non-destructive. But destructive photo editing means that you are taking the original file and you are adding all of these adjustments to it, but you're not saving and protecting the information that you had at the beginning. For example, let's say you take a photo and you on your phone and you add all these sweet filters and all this stuff, but that moment you kind of ruined because you chose a bad filter, but you can never get that back. So it's important that you do have all the files saved, the original files, and then how you edit photos in a non-destructive way is using layers. And you are going to be the master of using layers. So when editing, enhancing, or manipulating photos, you don't just do it right on top of that original file, that data. You have multiple layers, kind of like a cake, and you start out with, let's say this red shape is your original photo, and then you place another layer on top, and then you could add another layer on top there. So any adjustments, like any brightness or color corrections, would actually be in a whole nother layer versus adjusting the this original image. It would appear like this, but really there are layers, and you will learn how to different types of layers and how they work. But that is non-destructive editing. Now, if you are I would be asking you sometimes to take a screenshot of your layers panel so I can see that you are properly using layers and you upload to Google Classroom. If I see that you're doing everything on layer 1 or your background layer, you will not be getting the full credit for that assignment because you're destroying the original file. So just keep that in mind. You don't want it to be flattened out or compressed. Navigating through Photoshop. Knowing your workspace, so menus, panels, windows, modes, etc. In just a moment, I am going to open up Photoshop and give you a tour. But before I do that, I want to explain to you what different parts of your workspace are, because it might look a little overwhelming in a minute. So when your basic workspace, you have your canvas, which is the white space where you can insert an image or multiple images. And the left side toolbox toolbox on your left side. And these are smaller tools for detail work. Whenever you click on a tool on your left side toolbox, your options bar is going to change. Your option bar, that is always the same as kind of different elements to the tool that you have clicked on your toolbox. So you can see the text tool was clicked on here, and so you have those text options here. Above, you have the application bar, or regular menu for the entire program. Can I have someone close that? Yep, thank you. You also have what are called panels. These panels are little kind of windows of different tools or that we'll be using. I have just an image for you to refer to if you need to look back at this and see what each tool is. But anyways, the panels. Oh my gosh, that is a little overwhelming, right? What are all of those? That's okay. These, you just know that you have a lot of tools that you can choose from, but you get to design your own workspace. Let me go ahead and explain to you how you drag a file into Photoshop. Now, Photoshop, I don't know if you can see that very well. Nope. Okay. If you look at your dock on the bottom of your screen, you'll see that there are icons that say PS, AI, and then a few other ones. Photoshop is the blue square that has PS in it, and then Illustrator is the orange square with AI. What I'm going to do, this is one way to insert an image into Photoshop, is that I'm going to have the file on my desktop first. And then I'm going to click, hold down, and drag it right on top of that icon. When I do that, it will appear right away on my workspace. You'll notice that there's always going to be my left side toolbox. And over here, I have all sorts of different panels. Now, these panels you can choose, and you can also move them around. Let's say I want my swatches maybe over here. I can shrink down the size. I can have my brushes over here as well. if I really want to. I can even hide them in little tabs. Now I'm missing a panel, or I would like to use another panel or option. In Photoshop, you can go up to the top window and you can actually check off different options. So if I want my histogram, which I already have there, I can go to window and, oh no, I lost my toolbox. It's gone forever. Nope. Go up to window and you can just have a check mark next to it and it reappears. I'm going to have you now at this time open up Photoshop yourself. And you can just click on it for now without an image. That's okay. Today, really, I want to just make sure we are navigating things and you understand each part of your workspace. Now, to get started, I prefer to have the following panels visible on my workspace. I like layers, history, color swatches, and adjustments. This is something you might want to write down. So when you open up Photoshop, just make sure those are checked off. If you have some extra ones, you can just pull them out and then press this little X right here and get rid of it. Or you can go up to window and uncheck it. Does anyone want to guess why this program is only framing the whole screen and then we have like a floating? Anyone want to guess why? We can see our desktop. Yes, John.
So we can make the picture look greater than ever.
I love it. Not quite the answer I was looking for, but I think that that's close. I think that when you want to create the best picture ever, you want to also see the options of files that you have to create that best photo ever. So I can have multiple images pulled in, and I can have them on the same workspace, or I could be working on 2 projects at once. But easy access to other files, that's really what we're looking for. So I think we all have that open. How to get files onto your desktop. Let's just review that real quick. You have images in your Google Drive. I'm going to go to my Google Drive real quick. Oh, there is a puppy image. Lovely.
Aww.
Okay, so I click on the puppy image, and so when you go to your drive and you find an image that you would like to download, what you do is that you double click on it, and then you go to this download button at the top right. When you do that, and you should be using Google Chrome, when you do that, you'll see that there's a file that pops up at the bottom. A whole panel shows up, and then you can take that file and you can drag it to your desktop. You will get used to doing this whenever you are starting class or working on a project again. If it's a Photoshop file, let me go here. Show you. Sometimes it's just not visible in that preview. That's all I'm going to say. So you have your image on your desktop. That's when you can click, hold down, and you can drag it right to Photoshop. Oh my gosh, where'd my other photo go though? My Dungar Castle, where'd it go? Oh, don't worry. You can have multiple projects at once with these little tabs in your center canvas floating panel. There are different parts of this center canvas panel. And you'll see that there is a ruler on mine. I'm not sure if you have that visible, but there's a ruler here so I can see what dimensions my photo is. And how I do that is I can go to, where'd it go? View, there we go. View and click on rulers. Or I can get rid of them. So view, rulers, and I can have some things there. How do you move around or zoom in and out? A very easy way to zoom in and out is, and you might want to write these down whenever I mention them, Command plus and Command minus. Command buttons are on the left and the right of your space bar. So you can easily Command plus plus plus. You go so far that you can see each individual pixel. Wow. So I did plus and then I did Command minus. So they are by the 0, plus and minus. But I'm holding down Command plus, Command minus. Now let's say I zoom in and I want to move around. Hold down your space bar. Look at this cute little hand. Hi. This is how you grab and you pan around. So I'm holding down my space bar and I'm clicking and sliding. So you are going to do Command minus and plus for zooming in and out. And then your space bar, hold it down to pan around. Look at those people. How are we doing so far?
Mine's not open.
Yours will not open. The Photoshop program? Does it say anything when it doesn't open? Okay, how about you hop over to the next computer so I can continue this this video? I think I know what's going on there, but it might take a few minutes. Okay, so while you're zooming in and out, I want you also to look at this percentage. I'll do my handy. Look at the bottom of this window. You have a percentage right here. And that percentage you can type in as well. And that is how much you're zoomed in. So I'm zoomed in 20%. Maybe I'll zoom in 100%, and so on. So if you want to be very specific when zooming in, or you'll see that automatically changes this number right here. That's just the, yeah, what's going on. You have information about now to the right of that, you have information about the exact file. So your resolution, you can see what your resolution is, 72 pixels per inch, which I prefer that we always change it to 300. Just an FYI, I'll talk about that soon. And then it has the exact width and height. And we won't talk about channels for a while, but so you have your zoom percentage and information about, did not want to do that. Information about that file. So I accidentally did something. Here's another quick key for you. I'm accidentally using a paint bucket, which you will very, very rarely use in Photoshop, but somehow I was on it. How to undo, you press Command Z and you can go one step back. But in Photoshop, you have to press Command Option Z to go back multiple times. So Command Option Z, that is undo. Go back. What I'd like to talk about next, so you are aware of the different parts of this center panel. I talked to you real briefly about our toolbox. Later in the week, we'll go through each individual tool. But feel free to kind of experiment with them on what they are. Oh, it said I can't do anything because my layer is locked. I would like for you to write this down because you will be doing it every single time you open up Photoshop. And I did not do it right away. I'm terrible. You have your background layer here, and look how in your layers panel, it's locked, it's protected. Every time you open up Photoshop, the first thing you are going to do is press Command J. Always, always, always press Command J. What that does is it makes a copy of your background layer, and then I'd like for you to, in your layers panel, double click that and press editing layer. Name it editing layer. Every single time you open up Photoshop, the first thing you do, what is it? Command J. And then you label it what? Huh? Thank you, editing layer. Fabulous. Now, why do you think we do that? Any guesses? I just said it a few minutes ago.
So you don't mess up your original.
Yes, you do not destroy the data of your original file. This is a layer that you can do all sorts of things to, and then you don't have to worry about that. So the layers panel, if you do not see the layers panel, you can go up to Window at the top and you can check off layers. Let's see what I wanted to talk about next. There are different type of layers, and I will give you kind of a handout with those different types of layers. But whenever you want to make an adjustment, and we'll do this together on Wednesday, you can go to this kind of circle. The circle down here, the black and white circle, right there. Create new fill or adjustment layer. You can go to maybe brightness and contrast from there, and you'll see that it creates another layer. But this layer looks a little different. This is what we call an adjustment layer. I like to, instead of going to this icon, I just wanted to show you how many people like to do it. There are multiple ways to do the same thing in Photoshop. So I just want to make it clear before I go forward that not one way is the right way. There are multiple ways to get to the same result in Photoshop. So one way you can go to your adjustments is down here at the bottom of your layers panel. Or you can go to Window and, oh, look at, I have adjustments checked off. But when you first have that window, it should look like this. This is like the home page of your adjustments panel. And those create adjustment layers. Now I'm informing you of this because you're going to have quite a bit of class time tomorrow to explore. when you are exploring this software on your own tomorrow, what I'd like for you to do is to drag a photo in, any photo you that you have taken recently, either your 7 elements photo or your I don't know, any other photo, like the worst photo ever, if you want to play around with that one. But I'd like for you to drag one of those images in, and then what's the first thing you do? Command J. Then you may just kind of click around and experiment. I suggest having the adjustments panel open, and then you can do some basic adjustments here. Now, don't you worry if I set my grass on fire on accident. Oh no. It did not damage the original file. I can go in my layers panel, and there are these little eyeballs, and I can see. Uh-oh, hold on. That should be the only. I missed a step. Hold up. Let me go back to my adjustments. And this should only be the layer below. And this should also be. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to do that. We're going to do this a gazillion times together, step by step, so that you understand what just happened. There are these cute little arrows right here. That just points that what I did only adjusted the editing layer. And I did that by going to the actual layer and clicking this button right here. So that's kind of all I want to go over. I don't want to overload you with information. Together for the next few weeks, we're going to be doing step-by-step exercises so that you understand what these options are and how to do them. And you will really get some good practice. But I just wanted to show you that while you're clicking around tomorrow, and I will not be here, I'd like for you to play with adjustments and just see what happens when you do that. And some of your panels, see what those are. And practice maybe Command plus, Command minus, and then that space bar, hold, and pan around. Now, let's say I do something really sweet and I want to save it. I want to make it clear something about saving. If you click Command S or just click Save, what do you think happens? You actually save right over your original file. So you want to always go to Save As, and then label maybe, I'll do like, what is it, Dungire Castle. But since it's not a number, I'll know that I was working on that. And then I'm going to save it as .psd because why? I can still work on it tomorrow. I like to always save files to the desktop so that I can easily find them and drag them wherever I need to. So Photoshop format, this is also where you would change the format to JPEG. But we're going to keep it Photoshop format right now. That's save. So if you do something really sweet tomorrow and you want to pick up where you left off, I have it. Where'd it go? Right here. And then you can drag that file into your Google Drive. Are there any questions? I know a ton of information you just received. Are there any questions?
We're almost out of time.
We are. So you may go ahead and we get out of here at 39, correct? Okay, so if you want to keep clicking around for a few minutes, you may. But other than that, you may close things down.